Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most debated topics in modern history, the moon landing. Did humans really walk on the lunar surface, or was it the most elaborate hoax ever pulled off? Let's sift through the evidence and separate fact from fiction. The story begins on July 20th, 1969. The world watched, holding its breath as Apollo 11's lunar module, the Eagle, touched down on the Sea of Tranquility. Neil Armstrong's famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," echoed across the globe. He and Buzz Aldrin spent over 2 hours exploring, planting the American flag, collecting rock samples, and setting up scientific experiments. It was a monumental achievement, a crowning moment for human ingenuity and exploration. But almost as soon as the celebrations began, the doubts started to creep in. How could they have pulled this off with 1960s technology? The theories suggest it was all fate, a Cold War power play to beat the Soviet Union in the space race. These ideas have persisted for decades, fueled by grainy photos and a general sense of mistrust. So let's look at the most common claims. First, the waving flag. Skeptics say there's no wind on the moon, so why is the flag waving? It's a great question. The answer is pretty simple though. The flag was held up by a horizontal bar extending from the pole. When Aldrin and Armstrong planted it, they twisted it back and forth to get it into the lunar soil. In the vacuum of space, with no air resistance to slow it down, the ripples and wrinkles from being unfurled and then twisted into the ground just kept moving. It wasn't waving in the wind, it was just oscillating from the force they used to plant it. Then there's the issue of the stars. People ask, if you're on the moon, shouldn't the sky be filled with brilliant stars? In all the Apollo photos, the sky is just a pitch-black void. This seems suspicious, right? But think about photography. The lunar surface is brightly lit by the sun. To get a proper exposure of the astronauts and the lunar module in their bright white suits, the camera's shutter speed had to be fast and the aperture small. This setting simply wasn't sensitive enough to capture the relatively faint light of distant stars. It's the same reason you do see stars in the daytime on Earth. The sun's light is just too overpowering. Another big one is the shadows. Conspiracy theorists point out that shadows in some photos appear to be non-parallel, suggesting multiple light sources, like studio lights on a film set. But the moon isn't a perfectly flat, level surface. The ground has craters, hills, and undulations. These uneven surfaces can distort shadows, making them appear to go in different directions. The only significant light source was the sun. But light also reflects off the lunar surface, the lander, and even the astronauts' suits, which can create more complex lighting than you might expect. What about the Van Allen radiation belts? This is a more technical point. These are zones of intense radiation surrounding Earth. The theory goes that any astronaut passing through them would have received a lethal dose of radiation. However, NASA knew about these belts. They meticulously planned the Apollo trajectories to pass through the belts at high speed and through the areas where the radiation was least intense. The spacecraft's metallic hull also provided significant shielding. The total radiation dose the astronauts received was well within safe limits, monitored by dosimeters they wore. So we've debunked some of the main arguments, but what's the actual tangible proof that we went? First, the moon rocks. The Apollo missions brought back 382 kilograms of lunar samples. These rocks are unlike anything found on Earth. They have a unique composition, show no signs of weathering by water or oxygen, and are covered in tiny micrometeorite craters from billions of years of exposure in the vacuum of space. Thousands of scientists worldwide from many different countries have studied these rocks, and the consensus is overwhelming. They are genuinely from the moon. It would be impossible to fake this on such a massive scale. Then there are the retroreflectors. The Apollo 11, 14, and 15 missions left behind laser-ranging retroreflector arrays on the lunar surface. These are essentially sophisticated mirrors. For decades, observatories on Earth, including McDonald Observatory in Texas and others around the world, have been bouncing powerful laser beams off these reflectors. By measuring the time it takes for the light to travel to the moon and back, they can calculate the Earth-Moon distance with incredible precision, down to a few centimeters. This experiment is still ongoing today. You can't bounce a laser off something that isn't there. Let's also consider the human element. Over 400,000 people worked on the Apollo program. To keep a secret of this magnitude, you would need every single one of them engineers, scientists, technicians, contractors, and astronauts to maintain the lie for their entire lives without a single credible leak. That's statistically and psychologically impossible. The sheer number of people involved makes a hoax of this scale completely unfeasible. And what about the other side of the Cold War? The Soviet Union was America's biggest rival. They had their own powerful tracking systems and were monitoring the Apollo missions every step of the way. If the United States had tried to fake the moon landing, the Soviets would have been the first to know and the first to expose it. It would have been the ultimate propaganda victory for them. The fact that they acknowledged the American success, even while being fierce competitors, is perhaps the most compelling political evidence we have. Furthermore, we now have new high-resolution images of the Apollo landing sites from independent sources. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, or LRO, launched in 2009, has taken detailed pictures of the moon's surface. In these images, you can clearly see the landing sites. You can make out the descent stages of the lunar modules left behind, the astronauts' footprints, the rover tracks from later missions, and the scientific equipment they deployed. These aren't just blurry smudges. They are clear, photographic evidence that corroborates the Apollo records. Other countries like Japan, China, and India have also sent probes to the moon that have confirmed the presence of the Apollo hardware. So, when we look at all the evidence together, the conclusion becomes crystal clear. The claims of a hoax rely on misunderstanding photography, physics, and the sheer scale of the Apollo program. On the other hand, the proof for the landing is concrete and verifiable. We have physical moon rocks, ongoing experiments using equipment left on the moon, and modern high-resolution images of the landing sites. We also have the testimony of hundreds of thousands of people and the silent confirmation of a rival superpower. The Apollo moon landing wasn't just a political victory. It was a profound moment for all of humanity, a demonstration of what we can achieve when we push the boundaries of science and exploration. It inspired a generation to dream big and to look up at the sky with a sense of wonder and possibility. While it's fun to explore conspiracy theories, the truth of the moon landing is an even more incredible story. It's a story of courage, brilliance, and a giant leap that truly changed the world. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history and science, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.